Good day, gamers. Today, we're going to be coding some health objects. So, last time we implemented in our player script the ability to change health. Now, we're actually going to create an object that is going to reference that method or procedure and actually change the player's health. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to want to grab an object that we're going to use in our health collectible. In this case here, of course, we're going with the sweet, sweet ducko materials. And so we got like a kiwi thing that's going to be our collectible to increase our health. So let's go ahead and before we do anything, so for me, it's going to be under assets, art, pick your poison, and then VFX. In this case here, this is the collectible script. We are going to change the pixels per unit to 64. Okay. There we go. Click on apply. And now let's bring this in. Okay. We can also just resize it. Let's see. Yeah, what 64? We can resize it to the appropriate size we want to have it. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and add a box collider. Okay. So let's go ahead here. We'll say box collider 2D. And we're going to set it is trigger. Okay, so let's just make sure the box collider is fine. Yep, I have it exactly how I want it. Right now, there's no script attached to this though. Okay, so we are going to write that script that's going to basically change the player's health when they enter like the box collider. Okay, so when my box collider and the player's box collider and the Kiwi's box collider collide, something's going to happen. So we got to script that. So let's go to scripts. Our scripts folder. Let's do a right click, create C# script, scripting, and we'll say here mono behavior script. Okay. And we're going to call this health collectible. Okay. So capital H collectible. See, that's the thing is, all right, health. Let's go ahead here. I'm going to even zoom in for you guys. HEALTH collectible. All right, COLLECTIBLE, and then just enter. Okay, so we're going to be opening that. And also we're going to be working with the player controller script. We need to change one thing in there. So let's open up health collectible, and then let's also open up the player controller script. Oh my. Should have had this open already. Let's go ahead here. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Okay. So one thing we're going to have to do, though, before we get too far, is that we need to change our change health to a public script, a publicly available script, so that we can essentially access it from other objects or other scripts. So we're going to go ahead here where it says change health. We're going to add here where it says right before it says void, we're going to say public. Okay, public void change health. Okay, because we are going to be referencing this method or procedure that's part of the player controller script. We're going to be referencing it in our health collectible script. Anyways, health collectible script. We are going to need to go here where we are going to be creating our own script called on trigger enter. Okay, so we'll say here void on capital trigger enter, and then it's going to be 2D. Okay, so I did autocomplete there. We want to make sure it's just set to just one void. Okay. Void on trigger enter 2D, and then the argument or thing it's going to accept is going to be someone else's box collider. Okay, so this is where here, whenever something enters into its box collider, we're going to slot that in wherever it says the word other. So let's go ahead. We're going to first of all just write a kind of like a debug script that's going to just test our ability for our friend Ducko and this kind of health collectible to kind of like see if these objects can see each other. So we're going to say here, debug, let's go here, zoom in, debug.log, and then we're going to say here, quote, object that entered, okay? And then let's even just do here, make sure there's a space, and then we're going to end, we've got the end quote there. I want to say here, plus sign, other, okay? And let's make sure we're Good with that. Okay, so let's save that script. This is going to basically give us where it says here, where it says other, and then there's that other there. It's going to tell us what is colliding into it. So let's go ahead and test this out. Now that we've written our script, we need to add it to the collectible health object. So let's go ahead here to our health collectible, and we can do a couple of things. We can drag and drop it. Um, Let's just do it that way. Add component, and there we go. Now this health collectible has that script that we've been writing called health collectible. Let's go ahead, run it, and test. And so we see in our console, object that entered is the player character. So that's going to be sort of something important down the road. Like if you are doing some troubleshooting and you're like, this isn't working. This is a way to basically see what Unity is seeing when it comes to like collisions. Okay. All right. So cool. Okay. We can sense as far as what exactly is happening when it comes to collisions, but like how do we actually get the health collectible part, like the point of it? So let's go ahead here. We're going to do couple of things. We want to make it so that we change the player's health. All right. We also want it so that the object, like the collectible, is going to disappear if we've increased his health. We don't want like an infinite health like fountain. We want it so that the ducko gets a health boost and then the object disappears. So let's go ahead and we can keep. I'm going to comment it out. I did it 2 slashes. Like, we can keep that in there in case we wanna do some troubleshooting down the road, but anyways. Alright, so we need to go ahead and we're going to basically do, first of all, a check to see, is it the player that is colliding with this object? Because we're gonna add enemies, we're gonna add other stuff. We're gonna make sure that this is only gonna be giving health to the player if it's the player that's actually colliding. So we're gonna go ahead here. We're gonna say here, player controller. Okay, controller, and then controller. Okay, so this is basically we've defined a variable called controller. It's going to be of the type player controller. Okay, so that should ring a bell because in Unity we have a script called player controller that is attached to the player. Okay, so let's go ahead here, and then we're going to say here, other dot get component, and then open bracket player controller, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, semicolon to end the line. This is basically going to say, hey, if something collides with me, remember we said here this other is like a placeholder. If something collides with me, okay, so look for a component called player controller, assign it to the variable controller. Now, here's like where this is the actual checking part of like what's actually happening. We are going to say here, this is an if statement. If controller is not null, okay? So this is essentially like if the thing that is colliding with the health pickup, if that thing has an item called player controller, we're going to execute this if statement, okay? Let's do it. This if statement is going to have an open bracket, okay? And then we're going to say here controller dot change health. And then we're going to put a 1 in here for now. We're going to revisit this, though, and put a variable in, okay? And then we'll say here, destroy game object. Okay, so this is, remember before we went to that player controller and we had set it up so that this method called change health was public? This is why we did that, because we have here, we have the player controller script, we're basically accessing that directly. We want to execute the procedure or method called change health. We're going to pass it the argument of +1. Once we've done that, we're going to destroy the game object. So let's go ahead And we're gonna have to do one more thing because we need to just set it so that the player does not have max health. Because remember, we did all the stuff last time with our player character. We don't want it to exceed our max health. But initially, our player controller, like when the game starts, is set to have max health. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to set it so that our current health is going to be equal to 1. Okay, so let's go ahead here, say here, equals 1. All right. And then that will make it so that the player has 1 out of 5 hit points or hearts or however you want to call it. Okay, so let's go check this out. Let's see if we done goofed at all. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so now our player has 1 health. Theoretically, when we go up to the Kiwi, it's going to increase by 1, and we should get something in the console with that. And there we go. So we did hit that, and we see here there's that we did that one line in change health where we displayed the current health out of the max health. So now we have here it correctly worked. We have 2 out of 5 hit points or hearts or whatever you want to call it. Next time we'll come back and do some more, but this is a good place to end. I wish you the best of luck. Great stuff, dudes.